So the Conservative leadership race does indeed continue, and probably I thinking about maybe depending when this video goes out, an hours and a half time, 7:30 on ITV. I think it is. You'll be able to watch it on the ITV player online, or if you're in the UK, you'll be able to watch it live on TV. Today, I think there will be probably a live stream, maybe somewhere of it. You can watch it if you are not in the UK. But that hots up more today. Obviously, there will be a vote again on Monday, followed by another live TV debate where we will probably see the candidates whittled down again. I'm fully expecting Chris Tugendhat to drop out, unfortunately. He is the only sort of still a bad candidate, but sort of probably good enough that he would probably stop the Tories sliding from this far right direction that they've been going, probably pulling them more sort of back to the centre-ish, or at least slowing down this race they've been having towards a far right party that they've been doing. But there's going to be a lot of, I think, sigh of reliefs today in the parliamentary party, and indeed maybe the non-parliamentary party today, because it has emerged that Nadhim Zahawi has been having some very dodgy business affairs going on. There's obviously already been questions asked about some of his loans that he's been financing his companies with, and today it's been revealed that he has had a mystery loan in the total of £26 million from, well, somewhere. I think there's probably a great sigh of relief today that Zahawi got knocked out very early on, because ultimately this would be heavily affecting and maybe bring up questions in the leadership contest the Tories maybe didn't want to answer. But these questions should probably indeed be asked, because Zahawi is now the Chancellor of the Exchequer. And of course, these investigations are going to be carried out as part of his office. So definite conflict of interest with him, shall we say, being in that position, and that, well, his department is currently investigating him. Certainly a very, very big issue that probably should be addressed. Ultimately, of course, in any normal government, Zahawi would probably be removed, at least as Chancellor. But of course, you've got to remember, we haven't got a normal functioning government at the moment. So let's go diving into this article to find out more about what's going on here. And certainly an issue definitely around transparency. And of course, shall we say, mysterious loans once again to someone in the Tory party, something that needs to be addressed, I think, on a wider scale. So before we do go getting into this, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. So over we go, over to The Guardian with their coverage on this of Zahawi has urged to explain the source of a £26 million mystery loans. The Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi is under pressure to explain the source of a £26 million unsecured loan reported by his family property firm in 2018, as he faces questions over his tax affairs. The millions of pounds of loans help Zahawi and his wife buy properties across Britain, including commercial and retail premises in London, Birmingham, Brighton, Walton-on-Thames, and Surrey. The Observer has established that the new loans to the property firm Zahawi and Zahawi were reported in the same year that the offshore family, completely linked to the Chancellor, sold shares in YouGov, the polling firm that he founded, and transferring at least £26 million to an unknown recipient or recipients. A source close to Zahawi insisted that there was no link between the money transferred out of the offshore firm, Baltshore Investments, and the unsecured loans to his family property firm, Zahawi and Zahawi. The spokesperson said Nadhim and his wife has never been the beneficiaries of any offshore trust structures. The Chancellor is embroiled in a mounting controversy after the Observer revealed last week that a, quote, flag had been raised by officials over his financial affairs, and he is currently facing calls to identify the lender or lenders who helped finance his property firm. Zahawi, who was eliminated from the Conservative Party leadership race last Wednesday, said last week that he paid his taxes and that he was ready to answer any questions when his report was under investigation by HMRC. The Chancellor said that he'd not been informed of or made any aware of the investigations. Zahawi, 55, forged his career as a businessman by co-founding the polling and market research firm YouGov in 2000. The tax experts are, however, baffled over the way that it was not initially allocated any shares in the firm, despite being one of its driving forces. While the YouGov co-founder Stephen Shakespeare was awarded at least 351,000 shares in a year the firm was founded. Zahawi was given none. Instead, the shares were allocated to an offshore firm, Baltishore Investments, based in Gibraltar, controlled by his parents, in which it has been reported that Zahawi relied heavily on the support and the guidance of his father, who was an experienced businessman. The small firm in Gibraltar turned out to be a corporate goldmine, as YouGov shares rose dramatically in value. In 2002, the firm had assets of just £36,000, but rose to over £7 million by 2010 and 26.5 million by 2017, and according to its company's accounts, received more than £700,000 in dividends between 2012 and 2017. These key assets were the shares of YouGov, but they were sold in 2017 and 18 for about 26 million and transferred out of the company to an unknown recipient or recipients. YouGov have described the Baltishore investments as a family trust of Nadeem Zahawi. The Chancellor has insisted that he, quote, does not have or never had any interest in Baltishore investment and he is not a beneficiary. YouGov, of course, has built a reputation on internet-based research, floating on the IMA market of the London Stock Exchange, and in 2005, Zahawi was the chief executive and the director of YouGov in 2010, when he was elected as the Conservative MP. Zahawi is incorporated back in 2010 and used unsecured loans on top of bank debt to buy properties. Its borrowing rose substantially, quite substantially, from £185,000 in 2015 to nearly 400 million in June of 2018, including 11.4 million in bank loans and 26.6 million in unsecured loans. The Chancellor stood down as the director of the firm back in 2018, but his wife now controls the company. And investment properties are worth at least £58 million, with current liabilities of £55.5 million. So already there is some very shocking numbers, to say the least, going on here. These aren't small. This is obviously sort of business affairs, and this is the type of business affairs that are being sort of very, very murky. And Nadeem Zahawi being appointed the Chancellor with his own, again, HMRC may or may not be investigating this. We currently don't know. I would hope that they are. We need to get to the bottom of this type of stuff. This is why I've said it's really important that Labour really needs to hit home that we need to really look at MP financing, cancelling of like second jobs for MPs because they already get paid enough for their MP job. Why do they allow to sort of go and get a second job? But of course, we saw that killed by the Conservatives when that came as an issue. Certainly could be a very big issue at the next general election if Labour wanted to make it one. So yeah, definitely something that needs to be looked at. And of course, back to the article. So Dean O'Neill, the founder of the not-for-profit company Tax Policy Associates, and Zahawi, said it should provide more information on the structure of the repayment arrangements of the loans, which has funded his family property firm. The Chancellor is ultimately responsible for the UK tax code. Needle continued last week. He said in analysis of the commercial interest of the Zahawi family. The public has a right to know if there are any special or obscure provisions of the code which the Chancellor personally benefits. Pat McFadden, MP of Labour's Shadow Chief Secretary to the Treasury, said it was vital that the Chancellor makes clear exactly what arrangements he has taken advantage of in financial affairs or where this money has been borrowed from. The public has a right to know. Labour would abolish the non-dom status to create more fairness and transparency in the tax system, which again desperately needs to be done. So I hope they do that. Zahawi was eliminated from the Conservative leadership contest last week after only getting 25 votes in the parliamentary election. He pledged during this campaign that he would publish his tax returns each year if he became Prime Minister. The spokesperson for Nadeem Zahawi said Zahawi and his wife have never been beneficiaries of any on-top tax structures, have not filled any property, offshore tax structures. Any suggestion that Nadeem is telling me to avoid tax through offshore structures is false. Of course, we've heard the story before. It wouldn't surprise me if indeed they had done. Like I say, there is a lot of money, as you can say, being thrown about there. And of course, 26 million pounds is no more. It's no small sum just for it, shall we say, just mysteriously just appear. So definitely questions need to be answered around this. But once again, it is yet more evidence that the Tory party are, well, trying to, well, line their own pockets while they're being MPs, which just quite frankly isn't on, which again gives Labour a massive target, certainly at the next general election, to really go after sort of not only just reforming the voting system, but reforming sort of rules around being an MP as a whole. And trust me, they could get a massive backing if they could certainly do this. So it's definitely something that they need to look at. And certainly sort of need to start thinking about now, really. Like I say, well, potential next general elections only 2 more years away. But of course, who knows? Maybe in a couple of months' time, the new prime minister decides to call a new general election. It's entirely possible. But as always, we'll have to wait and see what happens in this case. But as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and on today's link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.